things you wish you knew or the learnings you've had, especially so that they can put their best foot forward?
Come in September as a confused MBA grad, trying to figure things out.
What kind of successes did you have, both in consulting and like non-consulting roles?
Coming to success, I think we only see the outcome.
Like, what are the key thing for you that people should prioritize?
Submit your resume. Don't stop till the time you have the offer.
Let's say if there's someone who's just joined and is starting their resume now, what's some advice you would give to them? Okay, this guy got an invite, I didn't. So how was that time like in your recruiting?
It's a tough point for every single person. I think I've seen people breaking down as well because they did not get any invite onlys. If you were to take away one advice from the entire long conversation we had, is that
Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to this video where I think the value added per second metric is going to be super high because we're talking about the industry that adds the most value, consulting.
I'm sure.
I don't know why you're laughing, Hardik. So
I'm not. I agree with that statement. 100%.
this is my classmate Hardik. Both of us met during the deferred MBA process. And the reason why I'm so excited of Hardik here is because I feel you really nailed the consulting process in the first year. I know we were not like super in touch because I was not doing consulting, but I actually remember one day I was going from one class to the other, and you were randomly sitting in the lobby with like three chairs, laptop, notebook, and you were logged in to some of, I think, BCG Atlanta event or something. But I knew at that moment that this guy, he's going to nail it. So Hardik interned at McKinsey over the summer, and curious, I think the objective of this podcast is to really help students who are just entering MBA right about now with things you wish you knew or the learnings you've had, especially so that they can put their best foot forward. So thank you for being here, bro. How was your summer?
Thank you for hosting me. And those are all kind words. We'll get to know me a little bit more over the course. But my summer was great.
Yeah.
It was exciting, intense, a lot of adjectives there. But enjoying my time here in India now.
Okay.
And a little about Shivam, I think I know him from 21 when we both got our deferred MBA admits at Columbia. And we also have a very cool common, like a mutual friend.
Yeah.
So I know that he sounds really serious on camera. He is at times off camera as well,
Yeah.
but the funniest guy, the most confused but most logged in person here. And I'm so glad that he invited me. I'm happy to be here and of course hopefully add value.
Okay, it's all about adding value. So first, Hardik, if I step back, I remember before the MBA was starting, both of us were keen on doing. We knew we didn't want to do IB, like that was a clear thing, but we were curious about doing this parallel path of consulting with, like in-house strategy roles or tech, and something that I felt was I can't think of anyone, to be honest, who was able to like nail both. Is what I felt. I felt the consulting guys did consulting, and and for those who did get roles in tech, maybe they didn't get roles in consulting or were fully focused on tech. So I'm just wondering, from a student who's like in our kind of position, what's your overall take on this parallel pathing?
It's a great question and I think commonly asked one as well. I would say you can most definitely parallel path, and I would say successfully as well, till the time you're choosing one intense and one non-intense path. To give you some example of intense paths, that would be like consulting, investment banking, private equity. These are more time-consuming pathways, and they require a lot of your time investment in networking or structured programming that comes across. Whereas a slightly less intense and more spread out path, which is tech recruiting or maybe even at times strategy roles, operations roles at these tech firms. I would say it's very easy to get at least like work on at least one of the intense and one non-intense path, which is exactly what I did as well. Uh, Coming to success, I think we only see the outcome. Like if someone is going to tech, they succeeded in the tech recruiting. If someone is going to consulting, they succeeded in tech in consulting recruiting. But I think it's not black and white. I think most people who did consulting recruiting but focused enough on tech as well still did well. And I know people who did IB, which is a lot more intense than consulting when it comes to at least the recruiting months. They still were able to pivot if they did not get the IB offer and find their roles in venture capital or tech over the next semester. So it's a slightly more complex thing. I wouldn't say that it's impossible, but I would stand by my statement of marrying the intense with non-intense.
I think, yeah, that really makes sense. I was someone who just did tech, and the beauty of tech is that networking is not that required for internships. So you just have your resume ready, and the key is to, I think, just apply fast. So you can do it in parallel with consulting or IB. I think, especially if you are really taking the time out for recruiting, like you have to be committed to doing it. Uh, I was curious if you'd be comfortable sharing like what kind of successes did you have both in consulting and like non-consulting roles.
Sure. So let me try to quickly give you the lay of the land of how I approached everything. I did for the viewers consulting and tech. When I say tech, that means primarily all technology and adjacent firms. So it would not just be like I'm applying for the PM role at Apple, but I'm also looking at operations, strategy, etc. Firms that are like Google, Waymo, these have non-tech roles as well, which are slightly adjacent. So I categorize them as technology. So my journey has been: you come in September as a confused MBA grad, trying to figure things out. Consulting kicks off, on campus. Programming kicks off around September end. Then you have a lot of your coffee chats and networking sessions that are again very structured over the month, like at least over October and even the first half of November. You have your tests, then you formally apply around that time. You have your test for each of the firms. You get you submit your application, give those tests. You hear back in about 10 to 12 days of whether you get an interview or not. And the interviews, at least for the business schools in the US, are scheduled around Jan 3rd to Jan 10th, so the first week of January. Uh, Now, when it comes to technology, like it's exactly the same timelines, but absolutely unstructured. So how I approached it is I had my resumes ready around the same time. Since consulting was my primary focus, I had that resume up first, and then I kind of edited, moved things around to tailor it to operations, tailor it to product management, tailor it to product marketing management, and all these different roles that technology has. And I kept pushing in. I kept applications going throughout, starting in September, uh, going till the very end, till January, till the time I had the offer. I never stopped. And I think that is one advice: don't stop till the time you have the offer. Even in December, when I had like multiple interviews for consulting, I still ensured that I kept applying for tech, which is, I think, the most important way, most known way to succeed in tech. Right, keep applying. Coming to my successes, I think I the first interview I got was Microsoft. It was more around the finance leadership program. I did a I also did a parallel path with startup recruiting. I found someone who I knew who referred me, and that was a sea glider ish startup. Pretty interesting. You would love it, I know. And I did interview for that as well, a strategy founders office role. I did Waymo operations, an MBA operations role. Uh, and by the end of December, I heard back from American Express for a finance role that they have, from Amazon for their non-tech PM, for IBM strategy, which is more of a tech strategy kind of a role, uh, and a couple others. So it was really spread out, right? Like I mentioned earlier, consulting, you hear back. Almost all the interview invites are rolled out around end of November, December first week. So you know what interviews you have in Jan, which is not the case for tech, right? You keep applying, you keep hearing, you keep interviewing, and you keep failing and working again. So that's the approach I took. For consulting specifically, I had interview invites from LEK, BCG, McKinsey, Strategy, uh, and I think, yeah, I don't remember a couple. I'm forgetting one or two, I think, but that's fine. The idea is that I knew that the first week would have three interviews, and getting an interview in consulting means that there's a 50-ish percentage chance of you converting, right? So it's not that bad when you hear back. Unlike tech, which can go either ways. Uh, I did give those three interviews before consulting in Jan. I had Waymo operations, Microsoft, and I had the startup interviews. I messed a couple of them in different ways. I was talking to you earlier as well. Microsoft, went really well till the very end, where they asked a more technical question.
Yeah.
That is too basic if you think about it from a finance perspective, but something I definitely messed up. So that I think would be one of the reasons why I got cut in the round one. So that was my first ever interview in the US
Got it.
context.
Yeah.
So I think I was less prepared, which gave me the confidence for the next interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another piece of
Yeah.
side advice is, like, I think when you have those early interviews in September, October, you get the fear of interviews out of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So you start building up confidence and then
Yeah.
just going through with it. Which is what I did for the second interview I had, which was more the startup that I
Yeah.
interviewed for. I had like 3 rounds. Everyone loved me. I think I was about to sign with them, but then they had some funding issues and
Yeah.
funding freezes. So they haven't hired since then till now.
Okay.
So that did not pan out. And then the third one was Waymo operations. Another, yeah, the person who interviewed me is a funny thing. I think the person who interviewed me had been at Google for more than 15 years,
Oh.
and that was my round one.
Wow.
Intense guy, super smart. I think one of the smartest people across the interviews I've given so far. And I had questions that are really like, imagine running an Uber business, like running a ride, like what do you call it, ride hailing
Yeah. Right.
service,
Yeah.
and you essentially, literally, he was asking case-like questions, but he did not want a case-like response.
Okay.
So, like for example, if there is a crowded event in the city and you know about it in advance, for example, a Taylor Swift concert,
Yeah.
what would you do as city head? What is the number one thing that you would do as an operations
Yeah.
intern or an operations associate? So very interesting interview. I enjoyed it a lot. I think eventually the feedback that I received was I was too junior for the role,
Okay.
which I also during the interview realized. I think the guy wanted someone with 7 to 8 years of experience. I don't know. The HR may have shortlisted me by mistake, but that was a very interesting thing. And by this time, I think I built a lot of confidence in giving interviews.
Yeah.
In the US context, you come from India,
Yeah.
you need to pick up on accent, but also you need to pick up on the vibe.
Yeah.
Unlike India, where there's a question answer, it's kind of a setup. US interviews are like more free flowing.
Yeah.
They're like more, you need to vibe with
Yeah.
them a
Yeah.
lot more,
Yeah.
and they talk about your weekend plans and stuff, which is unheard of at home. So that is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
and I think that is the entire journey I had.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. I feel like two things I could really relate to. One was, so even I had three interviews, three different companies, and while the first two did not convert to offers, I'm so glad I did them because like you said, confidence was much better by the third interview came around. Like I've done this before. Also, my content was just better because I'm someone who I can't, I'm not intrinsically motivated. So because I had the interviews, I prepared my content for the first two. And then by the third one came, the basics were sorted. So I was focusing more on delivery. And second thing I really liked was about not stopping, applying. I feel that we've seen folks who even have gotten internships later in the year, and the thing that has stood out is that they've just relentlessly applied and been in the game. So this is probably too early for our viewers who will probably, hopefully, not be in that scenario. But there's something to think about. Like the opportunity will come, but you have to stay relentless. So that's great. I would love to, dive deeper into consulting recruiting. I'm also really curious about it because I did the few pre MBA webinars and then I tapped out. But uh, I think just at an overall level, like we'll try to go into detail of each aspect later. But there's so much going on, right? Coffee chats, resume, the interview itself, general networking. For someone who's just getting in, and if they have to prioritize, or maybe the answer is everything is important. But what was your learning? What was the key thing for you that people should prioritize amongst the different things the firm looks at?
Sure. I think the answer is what you mentioned. Everything is super important.
Okay.
Essentially, there's a 1% acceptance rate, and anywhere where there's a single digit acceptance rate,
Yeah.
you kind of eventually end up being super. You have to be super sharp in each avenue of the application. But that being said, I think the formula goes like this. If I were to go back and speak with Hardik
Yeah.
in September 24, I would say that focus on the resume right now.
Okay.
Right, that's what your North Star metric is, right? Till the time you're not done with it,
Yeah.
you won't be able to move ahead with the process,
Right.
because you submit your resume to, like, for example, Bain asks for the resume, and I think some of them, some before coming to the coffee chat, go through your resume as well,
Okay.
which
Right.
is Generally not the trend, but maybe possible. So it's better to be done with that. And since you will get busy with your coffee chats and your cats pick up as well, it's better to be done with it by September end or October first week. I would say prioritize that first. That's the first thing in the process, because without a stellar resume, nothing matters.
Right.
Right? Even if you had an amazing coffee chat, if all of that, if the recruiter looks at your resume and they do not like it at all,
Yeah.
you will get rejected. Right? So that's probably the entry barrier that you have.
Yeah.
Once you're done with your resume, I think the next step is your pitch. Right? Your pitch is your introduction. It's your soul, and whatever you speak in front of a person, if they are not excited about you, they kind of lose track of what you're saying for the next 15 minutes as well.
Interesting.
So the average coffee chat for our viewers in consulting would be 20 minutes. Some offer 30 minutes as well. So 15 to 30 minutes of a coffee chat, you have to start with a pitch and
Right.
introduction. That could vary from 30 seconds to 60 to 75, depending on what the person, what you like and
Yeah.
how interesting you are. I generally left it around 75-ish.
Yeah.
I think I had enough content to stretch it till
Yeah.
there. And how it used to go is I used to introduce myself, that which city I'm from,
Yeah.
where have I studied. I came from a known university in undergrad,
Right.
so that generally picked up. So you should know what parts of your resume will be more relatable,
Yeah.
right, with the person sitting next to
Yeah.
you. So I definitely picked those things up. I kind of tailored them. So I used to say my undergrad university name a lot. Then I used to start with what I've done professionally.
Yeah.
Instantly dive. In the first 10 seconds, you've given your personal details and dive into your professional life.
Yeah.
I used to mention about my Citibank career, what I did exactly there in a line, and then continue with why I transitioned from Citi to Viom, because I wanted to make it a story.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? In a short way, Citibank, big company, I loved working there, but it was too slow for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to experience something faster, move to a very consulting like role in a startup where there's only execution. So
Yeah.
I used to work on projects, that lasted 2 to 4 weeks. So, kind of make a story in a
Right.
way that's interesting and pushes towards what your goal is, which is the person sitting next to you is evaluating you for your consulting interest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's what I did, and naturally, then the next step was I want to join a global consulting firm. MBA is a great route,
Yeah.
and that's how I ended my professional section.
Yeah.
But what I ensured during this pitch at the very end is also to make it very memorable.
Yeah.
So I used to mention a couple of personal interests
Nice.
that generally stood out really well.
Okay.
I won't mention them right now because it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But you also want the person to remember you
Yeah.
with something, right? Even if they don't remember that thing, it makes you instantly more interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Because everyone has a brand name undergrad and a brand name
Yeah.
like pre-MBA role,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's the second thing you focus on, which is your 30, 60, 75-second pitch.
Right.
Uh, Before moving on, one other thing, you have your advisors, your mentors that help you with resume reviews and pitches. I realized after a point, stop listening to everyone else, like any of them, because I feel there is always feedback, right? You cannot be perfect at a resume or a pitch. So you have to stop at a point and say that you are comfortable with giving this, you're comfortable with delivering that pitch and your resume.
Yeah.
So you can move on.
Yeah.
You don't need to review it every single day with different people. So find your squad, find the 2 to 3 people that you regularly review your resume with, and just end that thing. So pitch is probably in consulting the second most important piece that I would advise people to prepare.
Okay.
Then it's a lot of these coffee chats are structured in pitch, questions, and then it's probably more of questions and answers with the person sitting next to you. You want to be, sound curious. So you want to ask questions that are not available on the internet. You want to ask them questions around the firm and the office that they are at. Why did they choose this particular office, etc., etc. Which all of which will be covered by CMC as well. So coffee chats, the questions you ask. You always take 15 minutes before a coffee chat to go through the questions you want.
Right.
If it's a partner, you have a different set of questions. You have to, of course, go a bit more high level, ask mentorship related questions and stuff. Everyone from top to bottom know that it's part of the game, right? Even I think when I was doing my intern, I asked this question to a couple of people that why do you even have this process, right? I mean, everyone knows that these questions are probably something you'll figure out when you join.
Yeah.
Right? So you need not know them beforehand before making a decision to join McKinsey or BCG,
Yeah.
right? It's more of for them to gauge interest, for them to see that how well prepared you are and whether you can sit in front of a client or not. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the most important thing they're checking.
Yeah.
Once you're done with your coffee chats, you submit your applications. There are like tests specific to each firm.
Okay.
So BCG has a a case-led, an interview-led chatbot case.
Okay.
So which is very similar to a consulting case,
Okay.
but it's more quantitative and a little bit more. You have options in front of you, so you can select. So slightly easier in that sense.
Yeah.
Bain has a different GMAT like questions and leadership like questions on their portal, and McKinsey does something which is absolutely different,
Yeah.
which is a game, right? I think with your I think you have played that
I've
game as
played that
well.
game. Yeah.
So it's a different set of tests that you prepare for.
Yeah.
My advice, I think it's too late, but if viewers are watching this next year, it's to give like this McKinsey solve at least beforehand, because if you apply for the pre-MBA programs, you only have to give it once. So
Yeah.
if you have done with it in May, you don't have to bother with it in October and November
Yeah.
during peak recruiting. So that's the next hurdle. Some firms view that hurdle aggressively. For example, what we hear is that BCG actually values KC a lot, their
Oh.
test. McKinsey maybe that not so much. And all of these are like things we don't know
Yeah.
about. We just
Second hand.
the second-hand information, what we hear from other people. Then in the next 10 days, you hear about your interview invites and you start prepping,
Yeah.
managing what interviews you will. And every firm has a different style,
Okay.
right? So I can. Do you want me to quickly cover what kind of interview styles are involved as well?
I think like that was great. Just to summarize, you mentioned the pitch, which is something I didn't think about asking, but I'm glad you mentioned it. And just the fact that like these guys are busy, they're in coffee chats all day. So giving them something memorable, I think that's a takeaway. Especially in American culture, I think they like that, they value it. Maybe coming from India, we feel that utilize every second to give them more content, but these things matter. So I think that was great. We'll get into details a little bit. uh, I think the first thing is, since you said the resume is so important, uh, let's say if there's someone who's just joined and is starting the resume now. uh, I would like to tackle it in two ways. One is little high level, someone just starting their resume. What's some advice you would give to them to get started? And second is, like, I've shared some resume points of mine with you. We could maybe go through it. Like, I could talk through my process, and let's say if you were to advise me of like something you would change or best practices, that would be great. So first, at a high level, uh, like, what would you say, for someone just starting out?
Right. Let's make it very practical, right? When you're starting out, you probably have a resume ready, which you use for your MBA
Yeah.
application, right? Most people do.
Yeah.
So that's your starting point. You put that into your CBS format first, right? Without thinking anything, you just kind of copy paste
Yeah.
stuff, put it in your school resume format,
Yeah.
which is acceptable, and then once you have that in place, you kind of add a few points from your last 6 months.
Yeah.
You have a laundry list of probably a 1.5, 2 pager ready with a laundry list of bullets that you worked on.
Yeah.
You kind of make it as comprehensive as possible and not focus on, keeping them, really perfect or having them really crisp.
Yeah.
So once you have that laid out, once you have your 2 pages ready,
Yeah.
you kind of start making each point sharper. You kind of work with your CMC fellow. You'll have your CMC appointment, at least at CBS. I'm sure it's the same process at other
Yeah.
schools as well. You'll have your advisor appointment, but you'll also have your second years to bank on.
Yeah.
So you start, showing them your first draft,
Yeah.
which is after you've tried to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
it a bit more crisp and have a 1 pager ready, right? And the way it goes is, there are certain things that the CMC or the Career Management Center shares with you, which is resume best tips, right? How to write a bullet,
Yeah.
how to ensure it starts with, how to make it more quantitatively feasible, how to show the impact,
Yeah.
what you need to write. You need to also give context, all of those things.
Yeah.
You incorporate, make a 1 pager out of it, and then work with your CMC fellows or
Yeah.
advisors, like second years or school advisors,
Yeah.
to actually furnish and finalize that further.
Yeah.
And it's a iterative process. You keep doing it, you
Yeah.
keep showing it to your peers as well,
Yeah.
friends, all of those. Uh, that's the high level of how I would approach this resume making
Yeah.
process. But with the second piece, I think I want you to share your thoughts. I think it's
Yeah.
your resume in front, and I think you followed a very similar process.
Yeah, yeah. Second thing would love to double click on is, like, once your resume is ready, uh, and you're having these coffee chats. I know that these invite only events start creeping in
Yeah.
a little bit, and there's already some tension in the air that okay, this guy got an invite, I didn't. So, was curious if you could walk us more through that. You know, like how was that time like in your
Right.
recruiting?
It's a tough point for every single person.
Yeah.
I think I've seen people breaking down as well because they did not get any invite
Hmm.
onlys, which is a common occurrence in consulting,
Hmm.
right? Uh, I think one way to navigate this is to get anecdotal evidence that this is not the only indicator of getting an interview or
Yeah.
not. Just to give you an example, I never got any McKinsey invite
Oh,
only
okay.
events. Not at all. And there was a person who got probably more than three.
Okay.
That was part of the pre MBA summer program. He was shortlisted, the like 15, 20 CBS grads shortlisted in the pre MBA McKinsey event,
Okay.
who were given a little bit more of a priority status in events,
Oh,
invite
okay.
onlys,
Okay.
etc. They got a lot more touch points than me, right? Probably 2 to 3 times more. But that doesn't mean that it's great,
Yeah.
right? Because that person did not get an interview invite, but I
Yeah.
did. So probably we don't know the
Yeah.
process, but you know, so you since you don't know the process and you have examples like myself who did not get any invite onlys
Yeah.
from McKinsey, I had much lower coffee charts than this person that I'm
Uh,
talking about, but I made it to the same office
yeah.
interview and he did
Yeah.
not. So it's just an example of not taking stress, and there's countless such
Yeah.
examples out there. That being said, it is indicative,
Hmm.
right? When you start, like for not for McKinsey, but for BCG, for Bain, these events start give you a bit more flavor into whether the firm is interested in
Yeah.
you or not, right? And that's a good point. Instead of breaking down and thinking of all these things, we always knew it's going to be
Yeah.
tough, right?
Yeah.
Double down on your tech recruiting, double down on the parallel
Yeah.
path. It's important. I'll give you an example of several of my IB friends who did not apply for a single tech firm till the time they did not know that they are going to get cut from most firms,
Yeah.
right? Because just a parallel thought, they're also getting cut, right? IB is a lot more
Yeah.
structured. Getting cut out of coffee chat means you're out of
Yeah.
the process. When you start realizing that, it's too late, right? Now you
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
building your tech resume in
Yeah. Yeah.
December, which doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, right? Luckily for consulting, it's not so
Hmm.
stressful, right? Your coffee chats are all
Yeah.
virtual. Very important point. It's a lot easier to have, maybe what I used to do is used to have a whiteboard sticker on top and I used to write whatever I wanted to. If there's something I need to mention to this person for sure, I would write that
Okay.
up.
Yeah.
And so it's important to have like a little bit of
Yeah.
uh, flavor into exactly what the value of these invite
Yeah.
onlys are and take that at face value and focus on
Yeah.
what's
Like,
next. There are other firms as
just
well,
be
right?
real.
Just be
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
right? It's a process
Yeah.
that does not award, generally does not always award. There'll be outliers that will get lost in the
Yeah.
process and no one cares,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm McKinsey, hiring a Hardik or a Shubham probably doesn't matter as
Hmm.
much if you think in the
Hmm.
long term, right? So they don't care if they drop a Hardik or a
Yeah.
Shubham because there are like hundreds more to replace them. So
Yeah.
my logic is you of course be very thorough with whatever you can and hence be sharp every single place, but do not take it
Yeah.
personally, right? You have other firms that are just as
Yeah.
good. Keep applying, don't lose
Yeah.
heart, and just be relentless because at the end you'll find
Yeah.
something. Everyone does.
That's awesome. And any quick takes on, office selection itself? I know you mentioned that, or on the coffee chat process. I think you mentioned the pitch, but if there's anything else you'd like to share on navigating coffee chats and office selection,
Absolutely. Office selection is absolutely key. Thanks for bringing that up. I
it's
missed
a
that
bit
earlier.
underrated, is it? Or
It is
yeah.
underrated. I think the most important thing in office selection is to do it early,
Hmm.
right? But the reason why people don't select it right away is also because you try to woo a couple of offices,
Yeah.
meet people, and whichever one clicks with you
Yeah.
more, you kind of try to you want to delay office selection as
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
as possible, but they view it unfavorably. So there's
Oh.
a right balance
Okay.
to kind of crack. How I approached it is I only had two offices in mind for each of the firms. I never went to three or four,
Okay.
and all of them had solid reasons why I should be there. And after a couple of coffee chats, I did not wait till like October end to commit to an office. I made sure like after a couple of coffee chats, I dive in. I let the firm, the OCR, the on-campus recruiter,
Hmm.
or whoever is the person who's managing your office recruiting, let them know that you are now 100% fixed on this
Okay.
office, and only select that at the later stage as
Okay.
well. Like always put 100% on all your event registrations or application for that
Yeah.
particular office because they are really picky, right? Unlike folks from international offices, there's one one office, one country kind of
Yeah,
an
yeah,
approach, even in
yeah,
India. That's not the case in the
yeah.
US. Every office has their own P&L, has their own office managing partner, and has their own way
But
of
how do you
growing and
select? Like,
degrowing.
how? What are the factors one should consider according to you?
Uh, I think it's a very well debated topic.
Yeah.
I'm no expert here, but how I approached it is I essentially decided where I want to live long
Hmm.
term, and I double down on that. So for me, that was the New York tri-state
Yeah.
area. So the three offices, 2 to 3 offices for each of the firms in this
Yeah.
area, and then I doubled down on, for example, McKinsey. I did New Jersey, but for BCG, I did
Okay.
Philadelphia. Right, all of them had different
Hmm.
logics. Right, McKinsey New Jersey was more of a I'll stay here, right, in the
Yeah.
city. BCG Philly was more of something that I wanted to. I love Philly as
Okay.
well, right? It's a great city. It's really close to New York, and I had a cousin living
Okay.
there, so I always knew there's some
Yeah.
family there. So I chose it
Okay.
this in this way, and I was really honest with the recruiting firm. My cousin had a kid. I loved like
Yeah.
it would give me a familial feeling
Yeah.
working there for a few years. So I realized that that is how you go
Yeah.
with the office selection. Don't think
Don't
too
think.
much about
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
office has you do. I chose a part of me chose BCG Philly over New Jersey is also because I knew BCG Philly was growing, and I also had a couple of people refer me there.
Okay.
Like for example, one of my friends from Wharton who interned there
Yeah.
asked me that do you want me to refer you
Right.
to the BCG Philly office. So I thought
Yeah.
great, let's go
Yeah.
with it. So just be mindful of these things, right? You'll have second years you reach out to. They refer candidates as
Oh.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something that people don't share publicly. I don't know why. I realized this really late.
Yeah, I had
But
no
every
idea.
firm, yeah, see, I mean, most people don't have an idea. And second year, folks who have done their internships during the summer at these offices, at least at BCG, has a formal process to refer you. They
Oh.
literally ask those people, who do you want to refer?
Okay.
Right? And for McKinsey, it's not that structured because McKinsey is very resume
Okay.
heavy. So each of these firms have their
Okay.
quirks. But and Bain, I think, is the same way. They ask you to
Yeah.
refer people to
Yeah.
your office. So be mindful of this. Second years can help you in different ways, more than you
Wow,
know.
you're
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of first years reaching out now. I didn't know about this, but okay.
No, McKinsey is very resume heavy, so I'm safe. Those BCG friends of mine are gonna have a tough time.
Okay, okay. Let's get into interview prep a little bit, and the way I would divide it is cases and behavioral. So I
Right.
know that our schools will do a great job of, I'm sure, helping the students out. But if there are any things that you wish you knew about, and I think another thing I would love for you to elaborate on, you once told me this was that Chandu, I don't like to talk about him much, but you said that he was a guy you always cased with, like you guys were
Yeah.
like so. Would love to know more about that community aspect and how to go about the interview prep. Yeah.
Got it. So generally, case prep starts around the time you submit your applications, October end. You don't pick up casing before then because
Yeah.
your plate is
Yeah.
full, and it doesn't matter a lot because you have a lot of time
Okay.
ahead of you. So once you have your first couple of cases, you kind of are done with your basics. Of course, your school helps. There's like several avenues. I won't get into
Yeah.
those. The main crux of casing comes after your interview invites are out,
Okay.
and that's your December Jan
Okay.
first week, right? And I felt at that time where everyone there's no school,
Hmm.
right? You're all alone in your room and you're prepping, right? You need someone to interact with on a daily basis who's going through something
Yeah.
similar. And your partner may be that person, but generally speaking, it's great to have a case buddy.
Yeah.
I call that a case buddy. I think that's the general
Yeah.
parlance used as well. Uh, Chandu was my
Yeah.
case buddy, and we used to interact at least twice a day,
Nice.
case each other almost every day. It kind of helps build stories, help build a community
Yeah.
kind of a feel as well. And if you're going through something, you can talk
Yeah.
it out. You can have dinner together.
Yeah.
Those things really kind of help you go through this
Yeah.
process like in a more sane way. And that is the most important piece.
Yeah.
I feel on the interview day, what matters the most is not the content because most people have
Yeah.
mastered that. It's more or less the confidence and the vibe that you bring
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
interview. Right? I think both are very, very important. Content, most people will do casing really
Yeah.
well. There are like several resources
Yeah.
you'll come across, and most people do behaviorals
Yeah.
equally well as well. Uh, since your second part is covered, I'll quickly touch upon the first as well. Casing, behavioral. How I went about it is I was aggressive. People told me 30 cases are enough, numbers, etc. I did not count them as such, but I kept going, right? I kept casing till the time I felt I was
Yeah.
confident. And how I approached it is I without knowing what casing is, I first did a mock case with
Yeah.
someone because that instantly tells me where I'm lacking and what casing
Yeah.
actually is. You can read 100
Yeah.
books, but you still not figure it out till the time you have done it live
It's a
with
startup
someone.
mindset.
Uh, exactly. So first fail
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
kind of pick it
yeah,
up from there, because it's easier to pick it up when you know where you're
yeah,
lagging. So that is how I approached it. The like second years to
yeah,
KCU, your peer. You first start with your second
yeah,
years, that because you want to start with someone who's more
yeah,
experienced, and you want to build your foundations well, because your
yeah.
peers would not have
Right.
those foundations set yet. So the first 15, 20 cases were with second years. I found my community. South Asians
Yeah,
help me a lot. Find your community, figure out who you enjoy casing
yeah,
with, who have succeeded in casing a lot. They'll help
yeah,
you out. Generally, you'll
yeah,
always have second years to help you out. Once that is done, you can begin peer-to-peer
yeah,
casing, because you yourself, while giving a case, know whether you're doing well
yeah,
or not.
yeah,
More or less, you will find like 60 to 70% of people who case you, the interview
yeah,
viewers, are good
yeah,
enough. You don't need an expert interviewer to
yeah,
always
yeah,
case you, right? So that really helped. So having a case buddy interviewing this in this
yeah,
fashion
yeah.
helped a lot. Behavioral, I started probably in the second half of
Okay.
December. You've already done those
Yeah,
questions when you're applying for MBA
yeah,
last year. You have those stories ready. One thing that I updated and kind of changed a lot, especially since we were deferred, right? We had not
yeah. We were
applied
not
in the real.
fresh. Yeah,
Yeah, it's more or less
yeah,
fresh exercise for us. So I made it a lot more vibey, right? I made it a lot less technical and a lot more, focused on the actual skills that people listen and love talking
mm,
about, right? It may be leadership, maybe
yeah,
negotiation. Make it grounded in reality, like literally talking through your story in a way that the person thinks
yeah,
he's with
yeah,
you, right? He or she's
yeah,
with you while you're going
yeah,
through it. There's structure, star
yeah,
format, scar, whatever. You
yeah,
learn all of those things as well. But that's one general advice. And the last one is during the interviews. I think the pitch is super
yeah,
important, but you also kind of during the interview as well keep it a breezy, light attitude
mm,
throughout, because what you're testing is also how easily you'll have like hundreds of conversations with
yeah,
clients, right? And you want to be confident and less stressed about your daily chats,
yeah,
conversations. Just to give you some context, right? I One of my interviews at McKinsey, they have a different style. They have a not a behavioral round, but a
I've
PEI like
heard.
question.
Yeah,
There's just one question, and there's an essay like
yeah.
response that you need to give for 8 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
different format. They give you the questions beforehand,
Oh, okay.
so you know the questions that you're going to be
Nice.
asked, so you can prepare well. My interviewer decided that he's done with two partner interviews already. Let's have fun with him. For the first 20 minutes, we were chatting about his life, how his kids are sick right now, and what is he doing, how's
Okay.
the healthcare going. And you kind of start getting stressed, right? You think at 25 minutes you're vibing so much, but the partner is not getting to the case. If I don't finish the case, maybe he
Yeah.
penalizes me, right? Should I push towards the case or not? All those questions come up. But your interviewer knows what
Yeah,
needs to
yeah,
be
yeah.
done. And I think that changed everything for me, right? That conversation was so light, so
Yeah.
breezy. I crushed it in that
Yeah.
interview. And just to like, I think there are a lot of Americans in general, that culture is a little bit more
Yeah.
open. You chat about
Yeah.
things. You talk about their life as well. It's less
Yeah.
transactional
Yeah.
than the Asian
Yeah.
countries, I think, and the way we have
Yeah.
grown up here. You kind of need to imbibe that
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
your interviews. That's the general advice I would have for
100%. I
everyone.
remember during my internship, my like boss was taking someone's interview, and I
Yeah.
remember I saw his calendar. His calendar was full of meetings and work, and this was one tiny slot in the middle. So
Right.
I think it's a moment for them to just like chill, get a different
Yeah.
perspective from a young guy.
Right.
So yeah, we should. And I'm glad that you didn't push the case. Like interviewer knows what he's doing. So yeah,
Yeah, they're partners. I mean, why would you want a case to start early, right? I mean, and that case ended up my PI question, which was nine
yeah,
minutes or 10 minutes generally, that ended up being 2 minutes. He just asked me, "I know you're prepared, Hardik. Let's start with this part. Give me the impact. Give me what you learned." I'm like, "Okay, I'll give you the 2 minute response," and then we moved ahead to the case.
okay, nice.
So I think they know exactly what's
Yeah,
going on, and you can be really. They love someone who talks to them like a general person and
yeah,
not a
yeah,
partner, right? They don't want someone who's uh,
yeah,
underconfident,
yeah,
like in
yeah,
their
yeah.
own
Yeah, be
way.
human. Yeah,
So be
yeah.
human.
Perfect. I think this has been great. Do you have anything else you'd like to cover about consulting? Uh, otherwise, I think we've more or less covered everything. Like anything you think people don't pay enough value to, or something they care too much about, or like if you think we've covered everything, we don't need to go into it. But Open to any
No,
thoughts.
nothing
Yeah.
specifically, but just if you were to take away one advice from the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
long conversation we had, is that keep applying, always parallel path.
Yeah.
Keep applying to tech. You never know what works out in consulting or
Yeah.
not. The industry is changing a
Yeah.
lot. So just make sure you have more options open.
Yeah.
Right? The world is like a massive
Yeah.
place. Don't apply. Start applying in January.
Perfect.